Breaking news today. The International Criminal Court's double standard. While Putin gets called out by name, Bush and Obama are ignored. It appears that no Western nation can be held accountable for war crimes. The July trip to New Delhi that Russian President Vladimir Putin has planned is not going to be like any other. Putin has been wanted since March on arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court, ICC, in The Hague to bring him to trial for war crimes committed during the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The United States and the European Union led the charge to get the International Criminal Court to take action against Putin, and now they want no part of any country that has signed the ICC covenant to host him. India could argue that the ICC's arrest warrants for Putin do not apply to him if he were to travel there because the country has not signed the ICC covenant. India has steadfastly refused to become a member of the International Criminal Court. Although the International Criminal Court, ICC, sounds universal, like the United Nations, UN, it has historically only prosecuted Slavic countries, Serbia and Russia, for their crimes. And they were never, ever against the burning of countries by people from the developed world. Even though we haven't even reached the end of the first quarter of the 21st century, we already have 3 glaring examples of countries where the ICC turned a blind eye to the perpetrators of their barbaric and savage dismantling by military force: Libya, Afghanistan, and Iraq. The West's so-called civilizing missions have left them with a legacy of violence that has yet to heal. When it comes to opposing selective prosecutions by international tribunals, India was not a late convert. As a nation, Indians deeply believe in the principle of exclusive national jurisdiction over matters that occur on Indian soil. This Indian trait was first seen outside of India in 1946 at what was then called the International Military Tribunal for the Far East, or the Tokyo Tribunal. The Indian judge Radha Binod Pal was the only juror on the panel of 11. Historian John Dower describes him as a late addition meant to redress the scales of what was, fundamentally, a white man's tribunal. In his 1,200-page dissent, Justice Pal argued that the tribunal was an instrument of victor's justice, and exonerated all Japanese leaders. This prejudice persists even now. There is sufficient video and documentary evidence to convict U.S. Presidents George W. Bush and his Nobel Peace Prize-winning successor Barack Obama of ordering the carpet bombing of cities in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya, and then following up with either ground forces or missile-tipped drones. These atrocities date back to the CIA-mentored monsters of the Cold War, who pulverized countries like Vietnam, Chile, Indonesia, and East Pakistan. Third World Approaches to International Law, TWAIL, is a large body of academic research that proves Western states are effectively immune from prosecution by the International Criminal Court. It also claims that so-called international law aids in the Western dominance and marginalization of Third World countries. The International Criminal Court, ICC, has been reluctant to pursue prosecutions outside of Africa, Yugoslavia, and Russia, despite its purportedly global jurisdiction. In terms of race, it has only taken action against blacks and Slavs. India's involvement in international organizations like the United Nations, Interpol, and the Financial Action Task Force is evidence of the country's long-standing commitment to using collective efforts to combat transnational crime. The acquittals of Bush and Obama make it easy to conclude that the ICC is a flawed instrument designed to maintain the global power imbalance. It also fears that the International Criminal Court will come back to haunt it as its military, technological, and economic might grow. Not too long ago, the United Nations and the United Nations Security Council were used as leverage against Indian security forces conducting counter-insurgency operations in Jammu and Kashmir, the Northeast, and Punjab. No Indian leader, no matter how ideologically aligned they may be, can afford to let a politically motivated ICC prosecutor indict its military commanders for alleged crimes committed while they were actively engaged in operations within India or on UN peacekeeping missions. However, that hasn't stopped anyone from trying. On May 31, 2013, the United Nations urged India to establish a commission of inquiry into alleged extrajudicial killings in the Northeast, which would serve as a transnational justice mechanism.